and even September. So we got really 6 months of choppy action. Dipped down March, April, May. June it started to rally up. September came back down. November, election, it bottomed out, started to rally. Post-election rally every single time. Is that going to happen again this year? Maybe, who knows. Obviously 2008 was the absolute worst case, because from fucking May time, it just went straight down all the way until March of 09. So that went right through the election in November here. But of course, that was amidst massive housing market collapse and a real, global bear market. 2004, you got November election over here. Where are we? November. All right, there's November. What did it do? The entire year, so 6 months, 11 months, you had January until November, the market was just trapped sideways. Broke out afterwards, boom, away it goes. And so on and so on and so on. So to see the S&P just chop, even until the election, would not surprise. It would be par for the course. If it just chopped around throughout summer, maybe a fake out dip down to the downside, and then post-election, away it goes, that would not be a surprise. Now, is that going to happen? I don't know. I'm not betting on the exact same thing happening again, although it has happened in every single election year that I've mentioned. In every single one, there is a period of weeks or months where the market consolidates, right? It builds a base. And it probably still needs to build a base here. And why does this matter for crypto? Because crypto takes a lead from all risk markets, right? Like, crypto's still gonna be affected by a risk on or risk off in the stock market. Crypto's not just gonna rip away by itself for extended periods. And so it's important to see what happens. And it's also important to remember that in every one of those, I suppose 2008 was the exception. In every one of those, apart from 2008, this kind of choppy consolidation for a few weeks around the election was always bullish. It was always building a base for it to then break out and go higher into the election and post-election. And so just keep that in mind too. Seasonally, we're getting into a period of weakness for volatility and weakness for the dollar, which is actually good for assets. It should be a lower volatility market. But in crypto, if volatility dies off in summer, you'll probably not see it go much higher. You'll probably see it chop, sideways, correction. Bitcoin. Look, if Bitcoin can spend the next 6 weeks between 60 and 70k, that's strong. That's good. I wouldn't be concerned about that at all. If Bitcoin's building a base, right? If that's what Bitcoin does for the next few weeks, whether it goes up or not, I don't know. If Bitcoin just chops and chops and chops, that's building up a really nice base to break out from. And it's even more likely that happens now because people are naturally going to be focused on ETH, and there's just going to be less dollars chasing Bitcoin. But that can lead a weak Bitcoin, or let's call it a consolidating Bitcoin, can lead to a weaker market as a whole. So I think the areas you want to look at, I mentioned this yesterday about real world assets. RWA has done pretty well. AI is doing poorly. So AI down, RWA is up. That has been quite a clear market so far, quite a clear setup this week, where you're seeing stuff like Render pushing into its breakdown level, hitting into that big volume area from the original breakdown in March, and failing at it so far. I mean, this is looking toppy. Right? No other way to say it. That looks like it's failing to go higher and probably is going to drop back. But now, if it drops back and just forms a higher low and chops around and goes higher later, then it's no problem there at all. Of course, it could go lower than that, but we're just looking at saying, compare that to an RWA like Ondo, and Ondo's looking strong. Ondo's looking good. Ondo's breaking out. And Pendle. Pendle's another real world asset coin. Looking much stronger, pushing up. And you got things like Pepe and all that. I'll talk about those in Trade of the Day. But overall, I think people are probably going to get themselves chopped to pieces now, as we've got a really nice bit of volatility. You can see this on Bitcoin's volatility index as well. Bitcoin got its nice little spike of volatility at the start of the week, and boom, it's just dying. And I mentioned this over the past few weeks. Bitcoin volatility, when it starts to grind lower, leads to lower prices. This was the spike of volatility on Bitcoin whenever BlackRock announced their ETF. And then it just drifted lower, 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 lower until the August lows. And you know, if you compare the price of BTC over that, you can see it quite clearly. Look here, put them side by side. You can see, especially in summer when there can be low volatility. Take off those bands. Right, let me get these in line here. You got that little spike up in volatility in Bitcoin in June. Volatility then died off as price failed to go higher. Volatility spiked again as Bitcoin sold off, and then that marked the bottom, and then boom, away Bitcoin goes back into more of a higher volatility regime on the way up. Same thing's happening over here. That little spike of volatility got Bitcoin up towards the 72k area. It's failed since then. Volatility's just died off, and Bitcoin probably just drifts. It probably drifts around. Again, I don't think this is bearish. I think it's all setting up well. I think the ETH ETF marks a big shift in policy for the US government and the approach to crypto, and I think crypto is going to be a focus for the election, etc., etc., etc. It's not a place where I feel overly bearish, but I don't think you're going to get rewarded with just fucking 10% daily candles on Bitcoin and ETH anytime soon. It's probably a bit more consolidation and chop to happen. Let's look at alts then. Total 3, just as like an index. And Total 3 is looking, you know, choppy at best. Just tried to push higher, rejected back inside for now. Tried to break out towards the highs, came back down. It's not really a bullish chart. It's not really a bearish chart. It's just a chart that's in a chop near the highs. And the main thing is, like, this could come down like this, could come back up and start to break out later, but that's a few weeks. That's probably 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks more of position building and chop. So I think you want to look at ETH for the direction. And I think it's probably going to be days and days of ETH consolidating before it tries to move up, and maybe even goes lower. So in a simple sense, above 3580, ETH is fine. Lose 3580, I would watch out. And if it holds at 3580 and holds the 4-hour bands and the 4-hour trend, I think it can push towards 4,000. And then it depends what Bitcoin's doing, right? In every market that we've had, when you see Ethereum up, Bitcoin down, it can often lead to Bitcoin weakness and a Bitcoin pullback. So ETH BTC has pushed up here. After all of this, all the hype, all the bullishness, ETH BTC is still red on the weekly. So there's still at least 2-3 weeks before Ethereum BTC is going to flip into a bullish uptrend. And it hasn't yet, believe it or not, with all the fucking craziness, with a 20% daily candle on ETH. It's still just doing what it did here, so be mindful of that. I do think this is the time it will flip it. I do think this is more likely, but it hasn't yet. Hasn't yet, but I think it can get there. However, how many times have people said that in the past 2 years? A lot of fucking times. So that's it for me. I think we're Friday. I don't know much. I don't think much will happen. ETH will probably able to hold and rally up to 3,800 again, but it's likely just to be more chop. Weekend will be choppy. Some altcoins might move well, but I think you want to allow this consolidation to happen. And with the leverage levels, I think dips are for buying. Any continued dip from here on your strong coins is for buying. And if the consolidation holds at this level, I think that's also a place to buy. But you want to give it a day or two, wait for a bottoming structure to form or a sideways chop, and take your trades from there. GM.